My mom laughed and said, "The only thing you've ever been good at is taking up space." My dad added, "If freeloading were a sport, you'd have a gold medal by now." Then they went back to eating like nothing happened. Everyone at the table laughed. Everyone except me. I sat there, fingers wrapped around a lukewarm cup of tea, eyes fixed on a crack in the dining table I had paid to refinish. No one noticed the way my shoulders stiffened. No one noticed the way my jaw clenched. No one noticed, and that was the point. They never did. It was my father's birthday dinner. We were at their house, the same house I had grown up in. The same one I'd helped keep when it was almost foreclosed 3 years ago. The same one they claimed was saved by hard work. Their hard work, even though it was my name on the emergency loan papers. I had paid for the roof repair, paid off the back taxes, paid off their overdue utilities for 5 months straight when Dad forgot to file some business paperwork. And yet, in their eyes, I was the one who never contributed, the one who had failed, the one who was still figuring things out, despite working 2 jobs, living alone, and sending them money every month out of guilt so they wouldn't have to choose between medicine and groceries. It was never enough. I didn't want to be at that dinner, but I'd learned, painfully and repeatedly, that skipping a family gathering only gave them more fuel to talk about how ungrateful I was. So I showed up. I smiled. I brought the wine. And in return, I got reminded, once again, that no matter how much I gave, I'd always be the disappointment. My younger brother, Nathan, sat next to Dad, telling stories about his latest real estate hustles. Everyone was impressed. No one mentioned that he'd borrowed $10,000 from me last spring, promising to pay it back within 3 months and never bringing it up again. When he gifted our father a watch, an expensive one, they clapped and toasted. When I gave Dad a handwritten letter and a framed photo of us from when I was 5, he didn't even unwrap it. Just set it aside and said, "You still doing that artsy stuff?" No one asked me how work was. No one noticed I'd cut my hair. No one cared. I was invisible. Again. Except when they needed something. That's when I became the bank, the secretary, the errand runner, the can you just, girl, and I always did it until lately. Something had been shifting. I was tired, not physically, but emotionally. Like something inside me was starting to push back, slowly, quietly, dangerously. That night, I excused myself early, said I had an early morning. No one stopped me. No one even looked up. As I walked out, I heard Mom say under her breath, "Wouldn't be a family event if she didn't sulk her way through it." My father chuckled. "At least she left before dessert this time." Nathan added, "Maybe she's off writing a poem about how hard her life is." They all laughed again. In the car, I sat with my hands on the steering wheel, keys in the ignition, engines silent. I stared at the porch light of the house, the same light I'd fixed when it flickered all winter, the same house I had saved, and yet they had the nerve to call me a burden, to joke, with full bellies and wine glasses I had paid for, that I was the one taking up space. I wasn't crying, not yet, but something inside me was hollowing out. Like space was all I'd ever been allowed to take, and now even that felt like too much. I drove home in silence, didn't turn on the radio, didn't check my phone. I just drove, thinking about all the times I'd been told I was lucky. Lucky to have parents who let me stay after college when I couldn't afford rent. Lucky to have a family that included me even when I didn't follow the same path. Lucky, lucky, lucky. I used to believe them. Used to believe that I owed them for the roof over my head, for the food on the table, even when I was the one quietly sliding bills across the counter so the lights wouldn't get shut off. But that night something shifted. I didn't yell, I didn't call them out. I just sat with it, let the weight of every unpaid debt, emotional and financial, settle across my chest like smoke. I smiled politely. But inside, something was changing. I had stayed quiet long enough. I wasn't born bitter. I didn't grow up thinking my family didn't love me. That realization came slowly, like water dripping into a cup over years, until one day, it spilled. The first drop? My 7th birthday. I had spent weeks talking about it, drawing invitation cards by hand for my classmates, taping them to the corners of desks because my mom said mailing them was a waste. I had asked for a simple cake, strawberry with white icing. Nothing big, just something to feel special. When the day came, it rained, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was that no one came. Because my parents never sent the invitations. We forgot, Mom said flatly, slicing a day-old grocery store cake. You'll live. I sat alone at the kitchen table, legs dangling from the chair, wearing a paper crown I made myself. Nathan, 4 years younger, got a bouncy house for his birthday that same year. A magician. Pizza for 20 kids. They remembered his invitations. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was the mature one, that I didn't need balloons to feel loved. But the pattern stayed. Every Christmas, I was the one helping wrap the gifts Nathan would open. Every vacation, I got the bottom bunk, the broken snorkel, the camera duty. Every compliment from relatives was directed at him, so charming, so driven, such a leader. And me? Responsible, which is just a prettier word for useful. By the time I was 15, I had stopped asking for things. Not because I didn't want anything, but because I had learned that asking made them sigh. Made them glance at each other like I was being too much. Made them remind me of everything they had done. We put a roof over your head. We fed you. You're lucky you have a family at all. Lucky. That word again. Like their bare minimum responsibilities were grand acts of generosity. Like I should thank them for basic survival. Meanwhile, I watched Nathan crash his first car, the one they bought him outright, and get a new one within a month. I watched him drop out of community college, only to be praised for figuring out what he really wanted. I worked 2 part-time jobs during undergrad and still sent money home when Dad's hours got cut. No one ever said thank you. There was a moment, I think I was 21, when I came home for the holidays and overheard Mom on the phone with my aunt. She was talking about me. She's not like Nathan. She's quiet, distant, always brooding. Then she laughed. Well, you know how artists are. Sensitive, emotional, but at least she's not out there doing drugs. I was standing in the hallway holding a pie I had baked from scratch. No one ever asked me about my art, or why I had started therapy that year, or how I sometimes cried in the bathroom at work because I felt like a ghost. They never saw me, only what I could do. When I started making real money, nothing huge but enough to live, my parents didn't congratulate me. They handed me bills, unpaid property taxes, car insurance, late notices. Just until we catch up, they'd say, "You're doing so well." I was 26 when I first asked them to pay me back. Not all of it, just a portion. Mom looked at me like I had just slapped her. "You want us to reimburse you?" she asked. "Where are your parents?" Dad scoffed. "Didn't we raise you? Didn't we feed you for 18 years? It always came back to that. The roof. The food. The favor I apparently could never repay. I stopped asking. I kept sending money. Because guilt runs deep when it's planted early. Because I still wanted them to see me. Because part of me still hoped they'd say, "We're proud." They never did. I used to think, maybe next time they'll see me. Maybe after I got the raise. Maybe if I bought them nicer gifts. Maybe if I showed up more often, helped more quietly, sacrificed more deeply. But that night, after my father's birthday, after they called me a freeloader with mouths full of food I had paid for, I realized maybe they never will. And maybe, just maybe, it wasn't my job to make them see me anymore. The first time I said no, it was over something small, a car battery. Nathan texted me in the middle of a Tuesday, "Hey, can you Zelle me $150? My battery's dead. I'll pay you back next week." Normally, I would have sent it before he even finished typing. But that day, I paused. I was in the middle of a 10-hour shift. I had just spilled coffee on my laptop. Rent was due in 4 days. And I thought, for the first time in years, what if I just didn't? So I replied, "Sorry. Can't help this time." He didn't respond. No thanks anyway. No okay, I understand. Just silence, which said everything. After that, I started saying no more often. "I can't make it to dinner this weekend. I don't have extra to send this month. I'm not available to help with that paperwork." Each time my chest tightened with guilt, but then it loosened. It was like wearing a tight pair of shoes for so long you forgot how much they hurt. And then suddenly, realizing you could take them off. I didn't explain, didn't justify. I just stepped back. And no one seemed to notice. Not until the money stopped. A few weeks passed. Mom started calling again. Her tone was different, clipped, impatient. "Are you okay?" she asked one day, her voice tight. "I'm fine. Well, it's just, we noticed you haven't been sending anything lately. I have expenses, I said. I'm saving. Silence. Then a sigh. I guess it's just hard, after everything we've done for you. There it was again. The tab I never agreed to open. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I just said, I'm doing what I can. But that was the last time I said I'm sorry. Around that time, I started looking through my records. I had this habit, from years of freelancing, of tracking every dollar I spent. I didn't do it to blame anyone, it was just survival. But now, as I scrolled back through months and years of transactions, one pattern became clear. My money had gone everywhere, except to me. I had transferred more than $38,000 to my parents over the last 4 years. Sometimes $50, sometimes $500. Groceries, utility bills, medical copays, home repairs, car payments. None of it was reimbursed. None of it even acknowledged. And while I'd been skipping vacations and counting coins for rent, they'd taken 2 trips to Mexico, paid off Nathan's second car, got a new dishwasher. I remembered asking Mom about it when she posted a beach photo online. It was a gift, she said, from your father. He wanted to surprise me. I had congratulated them. Now all I felt was cold. Then the letter came. From the bank. At first, I thought it was a generic notice. But when I opened it, my heart sank. It was about my name. Specifically, a credit application tied to a home equity loan. From my parents' address, I stared at it for a long time, rereading every line. Then I called the bank, gave my information, asked why I was receiving the notice. The woman on the other end paused, missed. Taylor, are you saying you didn't apply for this? No, I didn't. There was a beat of hesitation. Well, the application was submitted online using your information. It's flagged for manual review now due to some inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? I asked, even though I already knew. Your employment history didn't match the documents submitted. Someone may have misrepresented income. She didn't say it, but I knew. I hung up and stared at the wall, not in shock, in confirmation, because something inside me had suspected it for months, maybe years. I had noticed Mom casually asking for my social once, just to check something. I had heard Nathan joking about how easy it was to sign stuff digitally. I had seen Dad talk about how banks just want to see income, not who earns it. And now, there it was. They had used my name, my identity, to apply for a loan without my consent. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't call and confront them. I didn't give them the satisfaction of a scream. Instead, I pulled out every document I had ever signed. W-2s, tax forms, loan statements, screenshots of every money transfer. Then I called a lawyer. He didn't sound surprised. Unfortunately, this happens more than you'd think, he said gently. Parents, siblings, spouses, people using the trust of others as leverage. I gave him the details. Then I sat in the dark staring at the folder on my desk. I had once used that folder to organize birthday cards I never received back. Now it would hold evidence. I wasn't the burden, I was the bank. The safety net, the one they drained while calling me useless. They didn't know I knew. Not yet. But I did. And I was done. I didn't tell them what I knew. I didn't call to scream, accuse, or demand. I just stopped. The next morning, I logged into my bank account and canceled the recurring transfer I had set up for my parents' utility bills. It had been running automatically for 2 years. They never thanked me. They probably thought the bills were just magically figuring themselves out. Then I called the credit card company and had my name removed as an authorized user on the emergency backup card they kept in the kitchen drawer, the one they never told me about until the balance had quietly crept over $3. Oh. Then I called my lawyer and gave the go-ahead to open a formal fraud inquiry. He told me to keep everything, every email, every call, every interaction from now on. I opened a new savings account, one they couldn't access, not even accidentally. And I sat in silence, waiting for the cracks to show. It didn't take long. 5 days later, my mother called. Hi, sweetheart. Quick question. Do you know what's going on with the water bill? It says payment failed. I kept my voice calm. I don't know. I haven't managed your bills in a while. She laughed. Too loud. Too sharp. What do you mean managed? You just had it set up, right? Can you check? No, I said. I can't. A pause. Claire, this isn't the time to play games. We have things set up a certain way. I'm not playing games, I said. I just stopped. Another pause, this one longer. Stopped what? Everything. I hung up before she could answer. That night, Nathan texted, "Why'd you block mom and dad from the card? Are you seriously doing this now? They're freaking out." I didn't reply. The silence was the answer. For years, they had taken from me and called it support. Now that it was gone, the panic had begun. Not sadness, not guilt. Panic because the free ride was ending. The next week, my father called. I didn't answer. The week after that, a letter came in the mail, handwritten, "Claire, we don't know what's going on, but this is hurting the whole family. You can't just walk away from everything. We're your parents. Nathan is your brother. Families help each other." I folded the letter neatly and put it into a new folder, labeled Evidence of Emotional Manipulation. They didn't realize yet that this wasn't just about the money. It was about the lie, the betrayal, the years I spent carrying their shame on my back while they sat comfortably and called me a freeloader. They didn't see the irony, didn't see that I had become the only reason they stayed afloat and the only one they made a joke out of. I started sleeping better, eating slower, not checking my phone every 5 minutes, waiting for another request disguised as conversation. I rewatched old movies I loved, started baking again, lit candles just because. I didn't realize how much of my life had been consumed by waiting for their next demand. Now that it was quiet, really quiet, I was starting to hear my own voice again. Then the real panic set in. I got a call from a blocked number. I answered without thinking. "Claire, it's Mom." She sounded tired. Uneasy. "What's going on? You haven't answered anything." "The mortgage is due and the bank says they can't confirm the equity paperwork. Something about an investigation." I stayed quiet. Did you start something?" "I filed a fraud report," I said flatly. "The loan application had my name on it." Silence. "Claire, we didn't mean you used my identity. We needed help. Just a little. We thought you didn't think. You just took. Like always. This is extreme. You're overreacting. We're family." "No," I said. "You're people who live in a house I helped pay for, using money I sent, while calling me a burden." She gasped. "Not because I was wrong, but because I had said it out loud. You're punishing us." "I'm protecting myself." Then I hung up. The next morning, I changed my number. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I had spent years proving I was useful, worthy, easy to love if I did enough. Now I was learning that love that needs proof isn't love at all. They asked me to come over, not in a text. Not in a voicemail, a letter, delivered by hand, folded neatly, signed by my mother. "Please, one dinner, just us. We want to talk. No apologies, no explanations, just please." And maybe, once upon a time, that would have been enough. Maybe there was a version of me, the version with shaking hands and hopeful eyes, who would have shown up with homemade cookies and a notebook full of what I wanted to say, only to be interrupted and dismissed halfway through. But not anymore. This time, I came prepared. I arrived 15 minutes early, not to surprise them, but to take control. I wore black again. It felt fitting. They were already seated in the dining room, pretending not to be nervous. The table was set like it always had been. Too much food, too much effort, too much pretending. They smiled. I didn't. I sat down and placed a folder on the table, just like they had once placed their judgments on mine. Subtle, heavy, expected. Only this time, the weight was theirs. Dad cleared his throat first. "Claire, we know things have gotten tense. We didn't mean for it to escalate like this," Mom added, her voice just a touch too fragile. "We were just trying to keep the family afloat. Sometimes we make mistakes under pressure." I looked at them, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a daughter trying to earn their approval. I felt like a witness, and they were on trial. I opened the folder. Page 1, the bank letter. Page 2, the fraud report. Page 3, the signed loan application with my name, forged. Page 4, a timeline of every payment I had made on their behalf for the last 5 years. I said nothing. Let the paper speak. Let the silence scream. Nathan walked in late. Of course he did. He looked at the folder, then at me. "You're really doing this?" I looked him dead in the eye. Yes, he scoffed. You're blowing everything out of proportion. Mom and Dad didn't mean harm. That's the thing, I said, voice flat. You all never mean harm. You just cause it, over and over. And you expect me to stay quiet because we're family. Dad frowned. Claire, this is not how families solve things. No, I said. This is how I solve things. Now. I pulled out the final page. It was a formal statement from my lawyer, notice of severance of financial responsibility and legal boundaries. It laid out, in clear, emotionless language, that I would no longer be responsible for any debts, co-signed agreements, or financial ties related to my parents or my brother. That I was initiating a formal review with credit agencies to ensure my name was protected, and that any further use of my personal information would result in prosecution. My mother paled. My father sat back in his chair. Nathan tried to laugh. You think you're some kind of hero now? No, I said. I think I'm someone who finally understands that being used is not the same as being loved. Mom started to cry. The kind of cry she had always used, not a sob, but a trembling performance designed to soften me. I don't hate you, I said calmly, but I also don't trust you. We're your family, she whispered. I know, I said. That's what makes this worse. I stood, picked up the folder, left the last page on the table, walked toward the door. No one followed. No one asked me to stay, because for the first time, they knew I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't begging. I wasn't theirs anymore. On the porch, I paused, took a deep breath. It didn't taste like victory. It tasted like air, clear, clean mine. 2 weeks after I walked out of that house, my credit report came back clean. The fraudulent loan had been reversed. The inquiry dropped. My name was safe again. But that wasn't the victory. The real victory was what came after, the silence. No more calls, no more texts, no more reminders of what I owed. Just quiet, the kind I hadn't known in years. Then, slowly, word got back to me. Nathan had defaulted on 2 credit cards. The car I had helped him co-sign, without fully realizing it, was repossessed. He was couch surfing between 2 friends, blaming banking errors and unfair systems. Dad's business had lost a private investor, one he'd kept secret even from Mom. Turns out that investor was someone I had met once at a conference. She followed my art online, liked my integrity. When she found out about the identity fraud, she pulled out. Mom had picked up a part-time job at a pharmacy. She told people she was keeping busy. No one said it aloud. But I knew. They were struggling, and for the first time, they were struggling without me. I didn't rejoice. I didn't post vague status updates or send I told you so texts, because this wasn't about revenge. It was about balance. The scales were finally tipping back to where they should have always been, and I wasn't going to waste my energy watching them fall. I moved out of the apartment I had lived in for 5 years. Found a little place further out of town, quieter, cheaper, with more light. It wasn't fancy, but it had space and silence and a porch that caught the morning sun in a way that made me believe in slow beginnings. I opened my own online store, something I had dreamed of doing for years but always felt too tied down to try. Handcrafted journals, stationery, pieces of quiet for people like me, people who had carried too much, too quietly, for too long. I named it Room of My Own. Orders were slow at first, then steady, then something close to stable. And for the first time, I was building something that didn't require anyone else's approval to exist. Some days still hurt. Grief doesn't go away just because the source of pain does. It lingers in unexpected places. Like when I pass families laughing in the park. Like when I hear a mom say, "I'm proud of you," to a child just trying their best. Like when I come across old birthday cards addressed to our sweet girl, written in my mother's handwriting, even though I know now she never saw me as sweet. Just useful, just available. But the pain doesn't stop me anymore. It just visits, like a shadow passing through the room. And I've learned how to breathe through it. Not fight, not collapse, just breathe. Then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find my mother. She looked smaller somehow, not older, just quieter. In her hand was a plastic bag with a loaf of banana bread inside. "I didn't come to ask for anything," she said. I just thought, maybe you'd want to talk. I didn't step aside. I didn't reach for the bread. I waited. Things aren't easy, she said softly. But we're figuring it out. I nodded. I know you probably hate us. I don't, I said. I just don't trust you. She flinched. I understand, she whispered. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. For real. Not because we got caught, but because I never really saw you. That, I believed. For the first time, I saw her not as a mother, but as a woman who had hurt someone and was trying to own it, however clumsily. But that didn't mean I had to open the door. Thank you, I said. Then I closed it. Gently. Not in anger. In peace. Now I wake up to sunlight through clean windows. Not to phone calls asking for money. Not to texts dripping in guilt. Just light and quiet. And the sound of my own breath, steady and mine. I run a small online shop now. It doesn't make me rich, but it's honest. And it's mine. Each order I pack feels like a piece of me going out into the world, not begging for attention, not trying to prove anything, just existing. I write little notes with each shipment. You deserve peace. Start again, even if it's quiet. You are not what they called you. I used to write those for strangers. Now I realize I was writing them for myself. Sometimes I pass by families laughing in cafes or parks. Sometimes I hear people complain about how overbearing their moms are, and I wonder what it's like to be loved too much. I don't envy it anymore. I don't grieve what I didn't have, because I've built something new. A space that's gentle, a routine that doesn't include dread, a voice in my head that no longer echoes with "you're not enough." My life isn't glamorous. I don't travel much. I don't post highlight reels, but I sleep through the night. I smile without rehearsing. And I don't flinch when I see my own name. That's more than I ever had before. I haven't spoken to Nathan in months. The last message he sent was short. I don't blame you. I didn't reply. Some endings don't need closure. They just need space and silence and time. My mother sent me one last letter. No demands, no manipulation. Just, I'm sorry for not seeing you when I should have. I hope you're well. I put the letter in a drawer. I didn't respond, but I smiled. Not out of victory, out of something softer, like peace. I used to think I had to earn love. That if I gave enough, worked hard enough, bent low enough, someone would finally say, "You matter." I was wrong. Love doesn't come from sacrifice. It comes from recognition. And the first person who ever truly recognized me was me. If you've ever been called a burden, if you've ever been made to feel like your only worth is what you can give, if your name was only spoken when they needed something, I hope you know this. You are not a burden. You were just around the wrong people. And they didn't see you, not because you were invisible, but because they chose not to look. But you can walk away. You can start over. You can build something that doesn't ask you to shrink every time you enter the room. And one day, maybe like me, you'll wake up to light and nothing else. And you'll realize that's what freedom feels like.